Preseason training has officially begun, tension is already rising within the team, and there are players fighting for their careers, veterans trying to avoid being replaced, and young talents working harder than ever to completely change the roster even before the season starts. Some fans believe the Dolphins are finally building a roster with championship potential in 2026, while others still think the team has too many weaknesses to go far in the playoffs. But what I'm about to tell you today could completely change your view of this roster going forward. Because there are already rumors about possible surprises on the roster, shocking competition for positions, and even some names that may disappear from Miami sooner than expected. And believe me, a specific competition happening now could completely reshape the Dolphins' defense even before training camp begins. But before we get into the details, don't forget to like this post if you truly believe the Miami Dolphins can compete for the Super Bowl in 2026. And I want all the optimistic Dolphins fans to say right now, this is our year. Come on, Dolphins, because the energy around this team is starting to be very different this season. The biggest storyline right now may actually involve the linebacker room, and this situation is far more intense than many people realize. There's a growing battle between Jacob Rodriguez and Tyrel Dodson, and this could become one of the defining competitions of the entire offseason. According to reports and discussions coming out around the team, Miami's linebacker unit might legitimately become one of the best position groups in the NFL this season. The Dolphins have versatility, speed, physicality, and now they suddenly have difficult choices to make regarding who deserves to stay on the field. Jordan Brooks is expected to have a huge role again, but the interesting detail here is that there is strong belief Jacob Rodriguez could emerge as the true Mike linebacker, especially because Brooks reportedly prefers not to handle those responsibilities full-time. That opens the door for J-Rod to potentially become one of the surprise stars of camp. Then you add Kyle Lewis into the mix, a player who can move around the formation as a hybrid defender, and suddenly Tyrel Dodson's future with the Dolphins no longer feels secure at all. In fact, there are already conversations suggesting Miami could move on from Dodson entirely sometime during the summer if Rodriguez continues to impress. And honestly, Dolphins fans should pay very close attention to this because when a coaching staff starts drafting replacements and adding versatile defenders, that usually tells you everything you need to know. Willie Gate Jr. is another name quietly gaining traction internally because of his flexibility and athletic profile. Miami clearly wants defenders who can disguise coverages, attack the quarterback, and operate in multiple roles depending on the matchup. That appears to be Jeff Hafley's vision for this defense moving forward. Meanwhile, over on the offensive line, there's another battle developing that could completely shock the fan base by week 1. Jonah Savaiania is trying to bounce back after an extremely difficult rookie season, and now he is moving back to right guard, which many believe is his more natural position. But here's the problem for Jonah. The Dolphins brought in veteran Jean-Marie Salyer, and this coaching staff may trust the veteran more than people expect. Salyer has experience all across the offensive line and showed he can still perform at a competent level in the NFL. If Jonah struggles again during OTAs, minicamp, or preseason action, Miami may not hesitate to hand that starting job to Salyer. And that situation becomes even more important when you consider the pressure surrounding this Dolphins offense. Miami cannot afford another season where the offensive line collapses at critical moments. The expectations are enormous, and protecting the quarterback has become one of the organization's biggest priorities heading into 2026. But maybe the most unpredictable position group on the entire roster right now is wide receiver. Honestly, nobody truly knows what this room is going to look like when the regular season begins. Chris Bell may miss some OTA time while recovering, which immediately creates opportunities for other players trying to climb the depth chart. Veterans like Jaylen Tolbert and Tutu Atwell are entering the competition alongside Malik Washington, Douglas Coleman Jr., and several young receivers looking to make an impression. And this is where things get really fascinating. There are reportedly so many possible combinations for Miami's receiver rotation that even the coaching staff may not fully know who the starters are yet. One day you could imagine Tolbert and Atwell outside with Malik Washington in the slot. Another day you could see Bell returning and changing everything. The uncertainty surrounding this group is massive, but it also creates excitement because somebody unexpected could explode during camp and completely steal one of those starting jobs. Defensively, the edge rusher competition is also becoming one of the most physical and important battles on the roster. Chop Robinson is expected to lead the group, while rookie Trey Moore is already drawing attention internally. But after those names, things become very complicated. David Ohabo is trying to revive his career in Miami, while younger players like Max Llewellyn and Mason Ryer are fighting desperately to prove they deserve roster spots. The Dolphins may keep 5 edge rushers, but there is also a possibility they keep 6 if enough players impress during camp. And finally, one of the most underrated storylines right now involves the cornerback room. Chris Johnson appears locked in as one of Miami's starting boundary corners, but the CB2 position remains completely open. Jason Marshall Jr., Juju Brents, Storm Duck, Alex Austin, Darrell Baker Jr., and Ethan Bonner are all fighting for that role. What makes this even more interesting is that Miami reportedly no longer sees Jason Marshall Jr. as a nickel corner. They want him outside, which dramatically changes the entire competition. And here's the scary part for the rest of the league. If even half of these competitions work out in Miami's favor, this Dolphins roster could suddenly become far deeper, faster, and more dangerous than many analysts are expecting entering the 2026 season. What makes this entire situation even more intense is that these OTA battles are not just about filling roster spots. This feels like a complete identity shift happening inside the Dolphins organization. You can already sense that the coaching staff wants competition everywhere. Nobody is being handed anything for free anymore, and that includes veterans who, a year ago, probably felt completely secure on the roster. Take the Tyrell Dodson situation, for example. The deeper you look into it, the more it feels like Miami may already be preparing for a transition at linebacker. Jacob Rodriguez keeps generating buzz because of his football IQ and versatility, and Kyle Lewis gives the defense another hybrid option that Jeff Hafley appears to love. When teams start prioritizing flexibility like this, it usually means they want faster defenders on the field at all times. That could leave traditional veterans fighting just to survive final roster cuts. And Dolphins fans know exactly how important linebacker play has been in recent years. Miami has had seasons where the defense looked explosive early, but injuries and depth problems eventually caught up with them late in the year. The front office clearly wants to avoid repeating that problem in 2026. That is why these younger linebackers are getting such an important opportunity right now during OTAs. If J-Rod truly emerges as the defensive signal caller, this defense could suddenly become much faster and more aggressive than last season. Now let's talk about the offensive line, because this may quietly become the most important storyline of the entire offseason. Everybody knows Miami has skilled players. Everybody knows this offense can create explosive plays. But none of that matters if the protection breaks down again. Jonah Savaiania enters this offseason with enormous pressure after struggling badly during his rookie campaign. The move back to right guard is supposed to help him reset mentally and physically, but the arrival of Jean-Marie Salyer changes everything. And honestly, this coaching staff may not care about draft status or long-term development if Salyer simply performs better. That's the vibe coming out of this competition right now. Salyer is experienced, versatile, and dependable. Coaches love players like that because they reduce chaos up front. If Jonah struggles even a little during these practices, fans should not be surprised if momentum quickly swings toward the veteran. This is one of those battles where preseason games could become absolutely critical. But the position group creating the biggest mystery right now is definitely wide receiver. There's almost no clarity surrounding who will become Miami's primary targets heading into week 1. The possibilities are endless. Jaylen Tolbert could emerge as a reliable outside target. Tutu Atwell brings elite speed that could fit perfectly into Miami's offense.